Welcome to Relatable Wisdom, the podcast where people share timeless ideas. I'm your host, Wisdom Okonkwo, and in every episode we dive into the philosophies, quotes, points, and life lessons that shape how we live, think, and grow. No matter where you are in life, this show is here to remind you wisdom is everywhere, and it's always relatable most of the times. Tell us your name and what you do.
I'm Shelley McIntyre, and I coach Gen X people who want to leave the corporate world and build something of their own.
Yeah. Wow, I love that. Welcome to the podcast, Shelley.
Thanks. Nice to be here.
Yeah. You said you coach Gen X people. For someone like me,
You know, it turns out I've been talking to a lot of people who have been listening to my podcast or clients that I've been talking to, and the feedback that I get is, hey, I know you're talking to people in midlife, but it really applies to Gen Zs, millennials, like all of the
yeah,
stuff that we're talking about, how you can't trust the corporate world to deliver you happiness and safety and security. It applies across all of the generations.
now that I think about it, right, I need to interview you for one of my other show because yeah, we'll have a lot to talk about. But but in the meantime, what's the quote you want to share with me today?
The quote that I love, it's an old proverb, and it states, all knowledge is rumor until it is in the bones. What it means is you can learn as much as you want, or people can tell you things, and you're going to treat it like it's a rumor, like it's hearsay, because you don't have evidence yet for it to be true. So in order to really know something, you have to feel it in your body. You have to have the experience yourself of knowing that it's true.
Yeah. Oh, all knowledge, it's rumor until it's in the bones.
That's
What
right.
does it what does it take for knowledge to be in the bones? Are we going to do bone marrow operation? What's going on?
No, it can be as simple as let's say you have a friend and they climb a really tall pole and they get back down and they say, that pole, climbing that pole was so scary. At the top, I felt so awful. It was super scary. You, wisdom, should not climb the pole. And you say, okay, well, you have a choice, right? You can either say, okay, got it. Climbing high poles is really scary, so I'm never going to do it. Or you can say,
Nah,
I don't know. I need to
nah,
find out for myself,
nah.
right?
I'll do it. Yeah.
So you're going to climb that pole and you're going to decide for yourself because you have the experience of living it yourself. And that's the only way to really know. And we can apply that to all sorts of things, right? So somebody might say, oh, you can't leave your job and start something of your own because it's too scary. And you don't want to do that and it's not safe. Well, I don't know that. I have to go try it in
Yeah.
order to really know it.
Yeah. I mean, this example you gave, just for context, you left your corporate career carrying fears and assumptions about working for yourself, right? And I'm curious, can you take us, you're giving us the conclusion. Can you take us back to the moments where you realized those fears weren't facts?
Yeah. So I was in the corporate world for about 25 years, and it's all I really knew how to do. I mean, I did some freelancing for a while, and so I had the experience of unstable income, but I
Yeah.
had never really started my own company, and I didn't know that that was for me. And when I left my corporate job, I thought I was going to take a little time off and then go get another job. But it was right at the very beginning of the pandemic. So there was nowhere to go. And there were no jobs to be had because everything just shut down. So I had to start my own experimentation and go learn some new things and go try some stuff to really kind of try on like a coat the idea that I could go out on my own and not have to rely on some big company to provide me with that safety and the income that I needed.
Yeah. Well, and that's a lot of it's something that's very common, very, very common. A lot of people, what I have this idea. I know what I'm doing. Like when I say that, and you know what they're doing, I'm talking about. They're really good at what they want to start a business on, right? So it's not like they're offering a service or a product. It's not like if I wanted to open, let's say, a bakery. I don't know how to bake or any of those things, right? They know how to like make fantastic uh, cakes and stuff. In fact, that's what they're even doing in their full-time job. So they're really good at this for them to be keeping their job, right? But then they're like, okay, but nobody's going to buy my stuff. And I'm like, but what you make is good. I don't really know. Like, I don't really know.
Yeah. But once they, once they put a piece of cake in somebody else's mouth and they go, I need everybody to experience this, then that's a really important piece of feedback to that baker. And the more they really witness other people experiencing their work and the feelings that they get, the feeling of pleasure and pride that they get from witnessing somebody else enjoying what they make, that's really important information. Because they're not going to read a book that says you can be a successful baker. Who cares? That's rumor, right? That's
Yeah.
not meaningful information. But if they're saying, my name is Wisdom, I've had your cake, it's the best cake I've ever had in my whole life, I want to order one every week, please open a bakery, please go into business, that's some piece of evidence that's meaningful to that person.
Yeah. I think in a way, one could also look at it as, trying out something new for the first time. It's scary. You don't know if it's true or not. But then if you could find a way to place yourself in a position to do that thing so fast and so many iterations of it such that it becomes something in your bones. I'll give an example. When I started interviewing guests, really scary.
Yeah.
And I had terrible internet. So you could see like things were not working out. So if I had perfect internet and everything was working out, that would have been great. But no internet, things like everything was just really bad. I was sweating, like way sweating. And what helped me was that in that same week that I did the first interview, I had like 10 interviews.
Wow, that's a trial
And
by fire right there.
and I was like, okay, I don't want to be that guy who, books meeting and I don't want to lie, right? I don't want to start saying my grandfather died when literally nothing happened. I was like, okay, we have to just do this thing. And the 10 persons, they were gracious, right? And I did the 10 and I was like, okay. I mean, I don't know what I'm doing, but it's not that bad. There was less of those nervousness. And at that point in time, the knowledge became something in my bones. Now I'm a
Yeah.
podcaster. Yeah.
Yeah. And what I love about your story is that you acted like a podcaster right away. And nobody else that you were talking to probably had any idea that you were
Yeah.
just starting out. They were like, okay, I'm just going to get on and be interviewed by this experienced podcaster. And so you all kind of pretended that you were already doing it, and all of a sudden you were doing it.
Yeah, and that's why every time a guest give me a compliment, oh, you have such great questions. I do like this and I smile and I'm like, and I'm like,
You had
shout
no
out to
idea.
all my very first guests, for it was because of them that I became who I am now. I literally experimented a lot from them, so I didn't know what I was doing. So you get to bear the fruits from it. So yeah,
Well, and you said something really important just now, like you were experimenting, right?
yeah,
And every time you interviewed somebody, you learned something. And
yeah,
maybe you wrote it down, maybe you didn't, but it got lodged somewhere in your person so that you could use that information the next time and continue to learn and continue to grow.
yeah,
And if you want to go out and start a bakery or go out and start another kind of business, you can take these tiny little experiments. Like go hang out at a bakery for a day and see how
yeah,
it operates, right? Ask people who run other types of businesses what they've learned. You can get out there and do your own experiments so that you're not trying to read about how to be a podcaster in a book. You're just
yeah,
trying it. You're just doing
yeah.
10 interviews in a week and getting exposed to that very quickly.
Yeah, now that I'm chatting with you, I just remember that there was a quote I saw recently that the problem with having good answers is that we stop asking better questions. We stop looking for better questions, something along the lines of that. And I realized that when you start doing the thing, like, I mean, when you started, when you move from corporate to doing your own thing, it will lead you to start asking questions of specific questions that are actually things that you need to work on. Okay, how do I form my business? Okay, how do I get my first client? Okay, how do I write an invoice? Something like that, right? And these are questions that you probably never have thought of if you were like, oh, I probably should do a corporate business. What do I need to start a corporate business? How do I need to be successful? These are just generic questions that has nothing to really do with the business itself, right? It's like being a
Yeah.
podcaster, right? I was like, okay, how do I greet the guests? How do I welcome them? Because that's like there's that first 10 seconds of awkwardness of, well, I don't really know. Elites start asking questions. Okay, how do I get lighting? How do I make my light really good? What kind of light? These are questions that someone who wants to start a podcast, they will not ask that questions because they don't even know those things.
Yeah. And isn't that the beautiful thing about learning something new is that you develop better and better questions to ask. I really love the moment where somebody is learning something new and they get to like a level of proficiency where
Well,
it's okay. They can get through an interview, they can ask some good questions, but at some point they're like, "My lighting must be better now. I
yeah.
demand a better microphone." Like, you get to a level of proficiency pretty quickly where you start asking some questions that will help you deliver higher quality. And
Yeah.
when you start caring about the quality of what you deliver, you are on to something. That is a great sign.
Wow. And just to add to the conversation, the I think having a system where you get feedback, even though it might not be, if you're privileged to get from a coach, awesome, you're blessed. But if you can't afford to get from a coach or you're not privileged to get from a coach, getting feedback by just watching what you've done is really, really great. Because one of the things as a podcaster is I did edit my episodes. And so I was forced to go back and listen because I need to listen to edit and I was like, oh yeah, the guest was about to say something. I just cut out of there. Probably should have just wait a bit. I was forced. It wasn't like I wanted to like take the feedback now, but by going through and listening to so I can edit the episode, I actually had to say, oh yeah, I know I'm bad in the conclusion. I need to find a way to conclude better. And that is one of the things most people don't have is they do the stuff, they in the arena, but there's no feedback and they're like, oh, if I keep doing it, I'll get better. Probably.
That's a really great point. And so what was it like for you to go back to your earlier episodes and listen to them with a more critical ear?
Yeah, going back to the earlier episode, I wouldn't really say it was going back to the earlier episode. I've not really done that. I was like, let's say if I finish recording this episode now, I will have to edit it to release it. And so in order to edit it, I will have to listen to you talk again. And when I'm done with the edit, I will have to listen to the full episode and say, okay, yeah. And so now I'm listening to your advice, but beyond just listening to your advice, I'm listening to, okay, oh, how did I handle the question? How did I moderate it? Okay, yeah, the guest was about to share something, but you know, I am forced to do that. So if I wasn't the one editing it, probably when I'm just done with the episode, I was like, I'll give my editor, they handle it and publish it.
But what you're doing is you're building mastery every
Yeah.
time that you do that. And when somebody goes out on their own, I think it's easy to forget that you'll be one thing I always say to people is that you don't start a business one day, you start it every day for 5 years at least, right? You're all
Let's take a quick pause. If you're enjoying this conversation and want more thought-provoking ideas straight to your inbox, join the Relatable Wisdom email list. It's free, quick, and filled with bite-sized insights, inspiring quotes, and behind-the-scenes reflections from our guests. Just head to relatablewisdom.com/join. That is relatablewisdom.com/join, or tap the link in the show notes. And hey, subscribing to the podcast helps more than you think, and it's free. So if you haven't already, hit that follow button wherever you're listening. All right, let's get back to the conversation.
always learning something new. You're always growing. You're always developing your mastery. So, like you were saying before, you don't even know the questions that you'll be asking a year from now. You don't even have access to them yet. And how exciting is that? That there's so much to learn.
Yeah. You don't have access to it. You talked about, I love the name of your podcast, and you talked upon the map. And for most journey, I see it like, having driving a car at night, right, with your headlights. You can't exactly see the whole journey, but you can see far enough to like keep on going, keep on going. Eventually, you're like, oh yeah, we're able to move from this destination to this place from point A to point B. Yeah. For a lot of persons, we need this GPS, this full map. That's okay. Everything's zoomed in. Okay, yeah. So this house here, this place, and I'm like, you really just need to know where you want to go to. And sometimes where you want to go to does not, is not even clear enough. To the extent that if you keep moving, you're like, oh no, this is not the direction. We need to change. We need to make a U-turn. But I think I saw a quote that you can't steer a parked car. And that's what I always keep reminding myself.
Yeah, that's great. And I think another aspect to that is that you might be following a map that somebody else drew for you.
Mm.
And a lot of people get these maps kind of assigned to us when we're younger. You're going to go to school, you're going to get a good job, you're going to work for a big company, you're going to stay there for a million years, and then you're going to retire.
Yeah.
And a lot of us are now, of people of all ages, are now saying, what if I never even wanted that?
Yeah.
What if I could create my own map of the future in a way that feels right to me, that reflects who I truly am and what I value? I'm going to have to burn it all down for that to happen.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. And it still takes us back to all knowledge is just rumor and you have to feel it in your bones. And I feel that that's one of the issues that's happening currently with young people. They tell you that I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know what I should be doing with my life. I've not found a thing, right? And I'm like, okay, what have you done? Well, nothing. I stay at home most of the time. I'm like, you have to try something to actually,
Yeah.
because it's like, if you recommend one of your favorite dish to me, like, oh yeah, you should try this. This is absolutely fantastic. I can't believe you never tasted this. And I'm like, okay, when I get to, you're calling from the US, right? Okay, when I get to the US, and I'm like, oh yeah, Shelley, where's that meal? Where can I get it? And you're like, okay, and you give it to me, and I taste it, and I'm like, this is absolute trash.
Yep. But how
And like
wonderful,
I
because
feel
you've
like
gathered evidence.
I feel like puking like right now. Like, what's the hype all about? And I think it's about finding purpose too, because sometimes you taste something and like, where have I been all my life? I can't believe that I've lived so number of years of my life and I did not taste this meal. What did I do? And it happens, you know, from someone like that's a foodie, right? You taste that meal and like, wow, this is whoever came up with this recipe is a genius. This is a master plan. And the same thing with pop, because when you do that thing, you realize that I was born for it's a feeling in the bones that this is what I was made for. This is what I should do. And at least for most people, they will get a whisper, but for the rest of us, we have to go find it and literally do stuff to eventually react. I love working with kids. That's what I love.
Yeah.
And yeah.
But there's a bit of a risk there too,
Yeah.
that people might think that there is one thing that will be their passion. They'll dedicate the rest of their lives to. That's a lot of pressure. And it might not be true. You might have several things that
Yeah.
you can attend to over the course of your life. Like for me, 25 years ago, all I wanted to do was talk about software and how that all worked. But I don't want to do that anymore. And that's okay. Now I have something new that I am really interested in, that I want to rotate my life around. But you will grow and evolve as a person throughout your life. And it's okay that you don't have a singular passion that takes up 75 years of your life.
Yeah. How do you personally test your assumptions in real life today?
But that's a great question.
Oh, okay.
I talk to friends. I go try stuff out for myself. I do things that scare me, because I think a lot of our assumptions are based on our fear of something. And what we're really fearing, what we're really afraid of, is not a change or trying the thing, but the feelings that the change will create. And what I have to keep remembering is that I can handle feelings,
I
and
can
all feelings
handle
are temporary.
I can handle feelings. Wow. 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 I can handle feelings. I've seen
Yep.
something to always hold on to. I can handle feelings.
Yeah.
Wow. I just loved what you talked about, that most of the knowledge, still going back to the quote, knowledge is rumor, except when it's in your bones, you can't even remember the exact thing you said,
Oh,
but
until it's in your bones. Yeah.
I think it's your bones. Let's say for people who have the fear of flying. Now, most of those persons never flown, they've never been on a plane in their life, right? Most of them, right? So for me, I'm like, how do you get a fear for something you've never physically been in? If it's not a situation of you hearing of things that possibly could have happened to other persons, and so now adopting that fear and say, oh yeah, the plane could just crash now and I could just die, like literally nothing. And you've never been on a plane, you've never lost someone who's been on a plane, you know, stuff like that, and you're scared. Why? Because you've taken someone else's fear and you've adopted it and it's become yours.
Well, one exercise I like to do with people is called, what's the worst thing about that?
Oh,
And so somebody says, okay, I'm afraid of flying. Like, okay, let's say you had to get on a plane. What's the worst thing about that? And they'll say, well, I'll be trapped with other
plane crash.
people. Okay, what's the worst thing about that? Well, some of them might not be willing to help me if the plane crashes. Okay, what's the worst thing about that? Well, then I'll die alone. I'm like, okay, now we're on to something.
Yeah.
Now, in just a few steps, we've gone from I'm afraid of getting on the plane to I will die alone.
Yeah.
So I think we can dig just a little bit and figure out the true fear that's at the base of all of these phobias, even if we have no experience with them. And can we then be gentle with ourselves and say, who can be with you? Like, how can you make sure that you have really good relationships in your life so that you can help prevent that from happening in the future? It's not about the airplane. It's about you feeling connected to other people in your life.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the thing to work on.
On the map, all knowledge is rumor until it's in the bones. And I'm curious, right? I like to buckle those a bit. What knowledge in your life is still a rumor that you finally want to make real in the bones currently for you?
That's a good one. That I want to make to get into my bones. I think it's that my country will be safe and get through this. And I need to experience that a little bit more before I can believe it.
Okay. So, what are you intentionally doing to experience that?
I'm staying connected to people in my community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And what assumption about yourself have you outgrown, even if part of you still clings to it?
Yeah. An assumption that I've outgrown is that I am not suited to be an entrepreneur. And I think I've proved that to myself that I'm doing just fine.
Yeah. I'm doing just fine.
Yeah.
Wow. I- I'm I love this episode. You do have a podcast called Burn the Map.
I
And
do.
I guess there's a lot of bunny there. I love the name, by the way. It's a beautiful name.
Thank you.
What does the podcast talk about, and how can listeners tune in to the podcast?
People can find it wherever there are podcasts. And I talk about how to get out of the corporate world and start something of your own, and all of the things that we have to consider, from our identity to the fear that we face to figuring out what you value and figuring out your skills. All of these in-between steps between leaving and starting a business.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for everyone who's been starting the business knowledge as a rumor. Here's a podcast specifically designed for you, so you can tune in. That's Burn the Map. It's available everywhere you listen to podcasts, right?
Yes, that's right. Thanks, Wisdom.
Okay. And if probably for some reason they can't seem to find the podcast, they can go to your website, and
that's burnthemapcoaching.com.
Okay, burnthemapcoaching.com, and you can see the podcast and tune in. Thank you so much, Shelley, for sharing this quote with me and for helping me make sense of it, and also sharing your own story too.
It was a great conversation. Thank you.
You've been listening to Relatable Wisdom, and I've been your host, Wisdom Okonkwo. You've been listening to the podcast where every story, quote, and insight helps you see life a little differently. If you enjoyed today's episode, follow the show on your favorite podcast app and share it with someone who loved the conversation. For more inspiring voices and timeless wisdom, visit relatable.wisdom.com. Until next time, keep living, learning, and collecting wisdom that matters most to you.